Hello, it's day 2 at Mobile World Congress, and I'm here with Liren Chen from Interdigital. So, Liren, Interdigital, it's a pure research and innovation company. That's how you describe it. And can you tell me a little bit more about it and what you do?
Yes. Hey, good morning, Fiona. Thank you for having me. So Interdigital is a foundational research company. We invest primarily in wireless as well as video technology, and increasingly we are adding more resources into AI, artificial intelligence. So what we do is we hire some of the best engineers and scientists in the world, and we consistently invest roughly 20% of our revenue into R&D. We have been in the field, believe it or not, for almost 50 years. And then we develop technology, and we share the technology through the standard process. By standard, I'm primarily wireless and video standard, but there's some other standard also. We work with other companies, getting our technology adopted into the standard. And then we monetize our research by licensing patents that read on this technology. So we are quite successful. We have licensed a number of the customers in the space, including some of the largest vendors like Apple and Samsung. Last year we licensed Xiaomi, which is the top 3 smartphone vendors in the world. That's our primary business. We also license our technology into some other space, like the so-called IoT, Internet of Things, smart TVs, set-top boxes, and others. So combined, we licensed roughly 800 million smartphones last year. But we are obviously hope to grow our business. It's a very, very successful business model.
So you joined Interdigital from Qualcomm just last year. So what made you decide to make that move, and what are you focusing on for the company coming up?
So I joined Interdigital last year, almost exactly a year ago, after I spent 25 years at Qualcomm. So I was an engineer, I was an inventor. I was also a IP attorney, and then frankly getting into the licensing side. So I was in the licensing space for quite a while. And so when this Interdigital opportunity, was available to me, I was obviously being recruited. I see a lot of similarities. Both companies are focused on foundational R&D. Both companies has enormous focus on creating, some of the strongest patents in the industry. And at least in the core space, the smartphone licensing space, we are working with similar group of customers. So I see a lot of similarity, but obviously both companies are different in other aspects. Qualcomm is a much larger company, but if you compare the core space of R&D, there's a lot of similarity. And after I spent 25 years, at Qualcomm, I feel I have built certain skill set, have certain amount of, industry experience and customer base. I feel will be useful for Interdigital, where I can bring the company to the next level. So everything feels right.
So 5G is obviously a big focus for you and for Interdigital. I mean, to the ordinary man in the street at the moment, it probably seems a little bit underwhelming given all the promise. Is this year the year that we're going to see 5G really sort of take off, and where do you see it going in the future?
Yeah, I think 5G is still going very, very strong. And if you I look at the 5G as multiple aspects. If you look at the standard technology development, we are probably at the midpoint of 5G standard development. And this is back to, we do foundational research, we share our technology through the standard process. And in that process, we are roughly halfway there. And some of the most important innovation for smartphone use case, I'm talking about the first 2 releases of 5G has been finalized. And then people working on the 3rd release, which is release 17, will be available this summer, and then they are working on the next one already. So from commercial adoption-wise, we are still at the early stage. We are in probably year 3 of 5G commercial release in terms of smartphones. And I think most people predict roughly half the phone this year sold on the market will be 5G enabled. And obviously the percentage will only increase going forward. But it's also important to know 5G is not just for smartphones. 5G is enabling a number of different verticals, people call it, and including like automobile industry, IoT industry, smart cities, smart homes, and the list goes on now here. So I would say the 5G evolution on the commercial side is still in the early stage. Most people predict it will frankly keep strong and growing until end of this decade. So we still have 7-8 years to go. in my opinion.
So obviously Interdigital looks ahead and quite far ahead. So you'll already be looking at the road path to 6G. What does that mean for you?
Yeah, so like you said, absolutely. So we always look at like 5 to 10 years ahead of time. So our engineers are currently working very hard in the lab and frankly with our partners on what may likely be the enabling function for 6G. Like I said, maybe 7, 8 years from now, standard-wise. 6G means probably a lot of things. And first of all, every generation of technology, people want something faster, something more reliable, something with lower delay, they call them latency, lower latency in the field. But if you look at what 6G will enable, first of all, it will connect a vast, large number of devices. People are predicting by 2020-30, there will be 500 billion of connected devices. That means every single person will have up to 60 connected devices you use, right? And some of the stuff we already know will be your cell phone, your tablets, your laptops, most likely. But I don't know, watches and wearables, but some of the stuff we probably don't really know what they are yet. And over time, we'll figure it out. But the network will be a lot more intelligent. 6G is built to have artificial intelligence not as an add-on, but as a built-in function. And it will use a lot different spectrum. People talk about terahertz, extremely high frequency, which means you can have very, very high bandwidth, very low latency, a lot more reliable. So the list goes on and on here. So one thing I have learned in the industry for 25 years is we as Interdigital focus on foundational research. We do the underlying technology that enables everything else. And frankly, there's a lot of creative people, smart people, they innovate at different level. And some of them is really at use case level, some of them at application service level. Only time will tell once you build the foundation. I mean, there's many, many creative people, companies in the world. They will innovate on top of the technology we build. So I'm very, very excited. I think 6G will turn out to be fantastic.
Obviously, we don't know fully what 6G is going to bring, but if you had to look ahead and pick one thing you think will be the most exciting USP, what do you think that would be?
That's a really tough question. If I have to pick one thing and one thing only for 6G, I'll say most likely it's a convergence of multiple technologies. By convergence, I mean connectivity, wireless, with video, multimedia technology, and with most likely artificial intelligence. Those are the three, in my opinion, most foundational technology people work on, and that's where the innovation will most likely can be. That's where the biggest breakthrough most likely will be, and that's, in my opinion, where Interdigital, the company, can contribute the most.
So this year, big words on everybody's lips, is the Metaverse. And I know that you guys are looking at this, sort of looking into the future and how you can work with AI, VR and immersive technologies. Is it just hype at the moment? I mean, what are the applications and is it something that has a reasonable application for enterprise? I mean, what are the options for business here?
I do. I'm a big believer in Metaverse. I used to be called obviously different names. And so if you look at what's enabling Metaverse, I think there's multiple enabling technology, and some of the stuff we already touched on, like connectivity, because it needs to be very much connected. And then some of the video technology need to be very high resolution with extremely low latency. Because if you wear this, head mountable displays, human beings are very sensitive to latency, to the delay of the signal when you turn your head, right? Everything has to be seamlessly. But there's also a lot of other stuff like low power technology, because very often you want it for this immersive user experience, it needs to be untethered. So the battery has to last a certain period of time, but there's a weight limit on how heavy people feel comfortable in wearing on their head. But then there's also what I touched on, the immersive technology, the whole user experience with sensors, with computations, with distributed computation, how much is in the cloud, how much is on the edge side. So that's very, very fascinating. I think it's really on the cutting edge of a lot of the use cases here. It actually puts enormous amount of demand on the connectivity, computation, how you make connectivity with videos, with AIs, with sensors, with immersive, all coming together. I'm a big believer for it. regarding your comments on enterprise versus consumer, I think there's both, right? Obviously, there's a lot of things to be made about gaming, social networking on the user space, but a lot of companies, a number of the companies are working on enterprise use case. That can be smart manufacturing, that can be a repair person for airplane. That's a typical use case, like a Boeing engineer getting into the airplane, try to make some repair, where the menus, everything will overlay on top of each other to trying to make a repair. That can be, frankly, a lot of the security use cases. That can be a lot of the, even maybe battlefield use case, dare I say. So I think that the sky's the limit. I mean, there's a lot of use cases people do in terms of virtual driving, in terms of even some of the flight simulators. It's not just for gaming, really for training pilot. How do you do it more efficiently, lower cost, obviously with safety in mind. So I think, look, there will be hundreds, if not thousands of use cases once you get into different verticals. And the good news about us is we built the foundation that everything else built on top. So.
And this year at Mobile World Congress, what are you most excited to see? What's really sort of doing it for you?
To be honest, I think the most exciting thing for me is what we're doing now, is to have face-to-face interaction. After 3 years of not able to come, and it's just so exciting to see people and people people, new friends you meet, as well as seeing a lot of different companies, see what they have done in the last couple of years. And you spot some new trend, you'll obviously be able to connect with people on the floor, over dinner and sometimes over coffee. So I think it's very exciting. I think after 3 years, everyone missed the human interaction. Virtual meetings are great, and frankly, Zoom meetings are fantastic. They use interdigital technology, so I'm happy they are happening. But the human interaction, I think, is extremely valuable.
Great, thank you so much, Liren Chen. It's been really interesting, and have a lovely rest of the week.
All right, thank you much. I appreciate your time, and this is fantastic. We should do it again.
Definitely.
Thank
Thank you.